Hey guys, what's up? It's Alex here. Welcome back to another video, and in today's video I'm going to try and predict the 2019 Formula 1 season before any testing, before any idea about who's fastest. I'm going to try and predict the season, the championship, both the drivers and constructors, and it's kind of interesting. I want you guys to do it in the comment section down below without any knowledge about what you think's actually going to happen. Just try and use a little bit of intuition of ideas you picked up through the 2018 season. Who's going to be quick, who's not going to be quick, and just leave it in the comment section down below. But don't be afraid to be wrong. I'm not going to be afraid to be wrong here. I'm probably going to be wrong on 95% of the things I'm about to say, but it's always funny to look back on, November, December 2019, how bad or right this was. So I'm going to start off with the Constructors Championship. I'm going to go from worst to best, and I'm going to do the same with the top 10 in the drivers as well. So I'm going to go with last place in the Constructors Championship being McLaren. That's probably quite mean, but you've seen the struggle they've been through the last couple of years, and I don't really know whether it's going to be a simple fix to get out of it. They've gone with two people that are sort of brand new to racing in their team. Sainz has obviously had F1 experience, but Lando Norris has only really done a bit of testing in the actual car. Okay, he's probably driven in the simulator a hell of a lot, but he hasn't actually driven the car as much as Sainz, and relatively new to Formula 1 in general, both of these guys really. I mean, it's not like they've had 15 years of experience between them to develop this car that's really struggling right now. So I feel like McLaren, towards the end of last year, or this year technically, I don't know when this video is going up, but whenever they weren't particularly quick, they were probably equal worst car on the grid with Williams at times. Probably just ahead of Williams most of the time, but they were right back there. So I'm going to go with McLaren with a relatively new lineup to Formula 1. I'm going to go with them struggling and probably being last in the Constructors. And just ahead of them in ninth, I'm going to go with Williams. So I think the Williams will improve. They've got Kubica and Russell, which is undoubtedly be a better lineup than they had last year. My thing is the money. I don't know whether they're going to have enough money to be as competitive as maybe they were last year in terms of the actual car. But then they weren't really competitive at all last year, so I guess that's, it doesn't really mean anything. They can't really get much worse than that. But I think they've got a much better driver lineup this year, so they should be better going forward. If they're worse, I mean, they can't really be worse, can they? Only scored a couple of points in 2018. If they do worse than that, that would be wholly embarrassing. Staying with the Williams Mercedes power as well, so that's a good thing. It's a good thing. They don't want to be going to Renault or something like this at this stage where they're really struggling. Staying with Mercedes for another year really is going to benefit them, as we know them and Ferrari are definitely the best two power units on the grid. So I'm going to go with them in ninth, and in 8th place in the Constructors Championship, I'm going to go with Toro Rosso. I feel like Toro Rosso is always a bit of a shock. They always seem to get a result here and there. I mean, they probably won't be in the points as much as they were maybe a couple of years ago. They seem to be in the points pretty much every single race, but I don't think they're going to be in the points in that sort of situation anymore. They're probably going to be, I think they're going to be battling with Williams and McLaren. I think these bottom three might be somewhat separated from the rest, and they could really be in any order. I think 8, 9, 10 is going to be Toro Rosso, Williams and McLaren in one of those orders, really. I can't really see them changing up too much into this 2019 season. But yeah, Toro Rosso, Kvyat, I definitely rate him as a driver. I know he gets a lot of hate, but he's a very good driver and obviously one of my favourites as well. I think that with that year out, he's going to be much quicker, and I hope, fingers crossed, we've got good things coming for Kvyat in 2019. So they're going to probably be distanced. I'm going to go with Haas in P7 in the Constructors Championship. They've got a new title sponsor, a bit of money coming in from external external companies this time, but I don't know whether they're really going to make a massive leap. I think they're going to still be in that mid pack. They're probably going to throw a few surprise results here and there, but I can't honestly see them going out there and changing the world. I think they're going to really struggle to get into the top 4 teams, and I think they're going to be battling with the 2 teams in front, which I'm going to mention in a second. Their driver lineup's solid, and I think they'll score some decent points, but I can't really see them breaking in to those top 4 teams. And then 6th on my list is Sauber. They looked really decent towards the end of last year. Marcus Ericsson and Leclerc, I think they were doing a really good job in that car, but let's be honest, Leclerc was a rookie, and a lot of people didn't rate Ericsson as one of the best drivers on the grid. So, with Raikkonen coming in as a person that's got so much experience, he should be able to help develop that car even further. I'm not saying that Leclerc and Ericsson didn't develop the car, but saying, Ericsson's still relatively new to Formula 1 and Leclerc was a rookie in Formula 1, so they can't have had all the knowledge in the world to develop that car. So with someone like Kimi Rikknen coming in, he knows what he's doing, he knows what he's saying, and he can really help improve that car. And I think they'll probably bump up the grid a little bit next year, and I think that Kimi Rikknen especially is going to be one to watch out for, maybe for a surprise podium in 2019. So next on my list is Force India or Force Stroll or Racing Point or whatever they're going to be called. They're next on my list in P5, pretty much equal to what they were this year really. Them and Renault fighting it out for best of the rest, that's my idea. And I think that, okay, Stroll's coming in, they're saying he's doing good on the sims. I've got my fingers crossed and hoping that he does do well, because I think it would, it would make people shush a little bit. All the hate from, people that love Ocon or whatever. The Stroll hate is a bit all over the top sometimes, I think, but I do kind of hope the best for Stroll. I hope that he just proves a couple of people wrong. I don't think he's going to be good as Sergio Perez, especially in his first season in the team, but I do think that Stroll's going to surprise a few people. I don't think he's going to be as bad as many think. So I think that they'll probably end up 5th place in the Constructors' Championship, quite comfortably ahead of the team that he left, Williams, which I think is going to be down in P9. So as I already mentioned, I think Renault will probably stick it as best of the rest for another season in 2019. I think it'll be a bit closer to those top 3 teams, so I think they're going to struggle to make it really happen. I definitely think they've got the budget behind them to make it happen at some point, but those teams have such an advantage right now. I mean, in some certain race scenarios, it's 1 to 1.5 seconds a lap that they're losing, which is insane. It really is insane, especially in qualifying. There's a big gap between those top 3 teams and Renault, so I doubt they're going to be able to close that gap down fully, but maybe in 2020, 2021, when those new regulations come in, we might see Renault be a bit of a surprise and actually start battling for championships again. I guess that's what Daniel Ricciardo wants. So I think they're probably going to be P4 in 2019. Then my top 3, okay, this could go in any order really, because if Red Bull have an amazing year, they could battle for the championship. I think that's pretty likely that they, if the car's there, the engine's there. I mean, why would they not? Because they showed towards the end of 2018 their car's very good. It's just the engine, the power unit, that's letting them down. But I'm going to stay with them in P3 for 2019. I still think there is still improvements needed to this Honda power unit. It's better probably than the Renault at this point, but it's not as good as the Ferrari, it's not as good as the Mercedes, and I think they might struggle over a season for consistency, because that's the thing, Honda is still relatively new to Formula 1 in comparison to the rest of the guys that are powering the team so far, and I think that it'd be very unlikely for them to be able to make the best engine for 2019 without any big rule changes to help. But I think they'll be closer. I think that's not a silly thing to say. I think they'll be closer, but I think they'd struggle with the reliability over 20-21 races to be able to make it for a Constructors' Championship. Now, I've put 2nd place in the Constructors' Championship as Mercedes, because I feel like they might have the same issues as they had this year. Hamilton will be undoubtedly the number 1 driver in the team, leaving Bottas to get out the way on many occasions, which I guess means for a worse off Constructors' position really, because Bottas ends up struggling quite a bit in the second half of races, and especially if he's getting moved out of the way for Hamilton a lot, he's going to end up being on the defensive a lot more of the time. He's going to be destroying his tyres, and I feel like Bottas has got a make or break season in 2019, so this could go either way. They could finish 2nd or 1st or 3rd, just depending on how good Bottas is really. We know Hamilton's going to be right up there, but how good Bottas going to be, that's going to be determining where Mercedes are in the Constructors' Championship. So I put them in P2 just because I kind of have a little bit of doubt about how Bottas is going to do in 2019. I really like the guy. I really want the best for him, but you have to sort of somewhat doubt what's going to happen in 2019 when the struggles throughout, they were present throughout 2018, just didn't go away. He struggled pretty much every Grand Prix except maybe 1 or 2, Austria and Russia, I think, were the 2 ones that, he probably, Austria, Russia, maybe Baku. Actually, I don't know, Austria, maybe that was 2017, but he maybe like 2 or 3 races each season, he always proves himself to be a very good driver. It's just that consistency isn't there throughout the whole season, so yeah, it's a make or break season for him. And I'm going to go with the Constructors' Champions of Ferrari. I don't know if this is just me dreaming, or maybe Ferrari are, brainwashing me or something, but I don't know, I feel like this might happen. I feel like Leclerc and Vettel are a little bit more of a consistent couple in a team, especially if Vettel stops the silly mistakes. I think that they're going to be they've got to be favourites in a way for the Constructors' Championship, because Leclerc has proved already in a Sauber how consistent he can be out throughout a season, and that's in a car that sometimes turns out being the worst on the grid. Sometimes he always somehow gets it towards the points. So I think that consistency from a rookie is absolutely incredible. I think going forward that's going to be something we're going to be watching out for. And yeah, I don't know. Something in me feels like Ferrari is going to win the Constructors' Championship next year. It might not be the title they want, but I think they'll take it after so long without any sort of title whatsoever. Okay, drivers. Now I'm not going to go through all 20 because it'd be impossible to predict all 20. It's hard enough predicting 10, and I'm going with 10 in this video. So, maybe if you really want to, you can predict all 20 in the comment section down below, but I'm only crazy enough to do 10. So, I'm going to go 10th place in the Drivers' Championship of Kimi Rikknen. I think he's going to be quite clearly outperforming his teammate Giovinazzi. I am still undecided on Giovinazzi because he showed in his time in GP2 he's a very quick driver, pretty much at level with Pierre Gasly, but then he's had a couple of years and not really doing too much, so I don't really know whether that's really changed him or whether he's still got that raw talent, obviously the talent was there, but the raw speed that he had when he was in GP2 battling for a championship. I don't know whether that's still there. We'll have to see. Maybe it will take a few races to get the rustiness away, but I think Raikkonen will well and truly do him over in the 2019 season. I think Raikkonen will be top 10 in the championship, and I think Giovinazzi might struggle a little bit more, maybe finishing like 15th, 16th in the championship. And then in P9 in the Drivers' Championship, I'm going to go with Sergio Perez. As always, I think he's going to be there or thereabouts. He's going to be that guy that somehow probably gets a podium next year. I think we'll probably see him getting some decent results. I think that Force India Racing Point thing is going to be decent. It's going to be decent, especially with the inject of a lot of cash. We'd assume that they should be good. They should be good. They should be much better going into 2019 with all that extra cash coming in. But we'll see, of course. It's not always the case. Money doesn't always solve your problems in Formula 1. But yeah, I think Sergio Perez, with a bit more of a car behind him, he should be able to battle for maybe P7 in the championship. I think it's going to be close. I mean, as I've been saying already, I think it's going to be between Racing Point and Renault, probably for P4 in the Constructors yet again. But I wouldn't be surprised if someone like Raikkonen does manage to challenge there for best of the rest in terms of drivers. But I'm going to go with Sergio Perez in P9 in the Drivers' Championship. Daniel Ricciardo P8 and Hülkenberg P7. So I feel like I need to say those together to make it make sense, because I think it's undoubtedly true that Daniel Ricciardo is an incredibly talented driver, but he's been sort of a part of that Red Bull family for pretty much his time in racing. And I don't know how it's going to change him going to a team that is not designed around him, because Renault have got a superstar in their ranks of Nico Hülkenberg. We saw how good he was throughout 2018, and if he didn't have 7 retirements, I think he would have been worryingly close to Ricciardo in the Drivers' Championship. I mean, I know Ricciardo had all of his issues, but you know what I mean. Hülkenberg had a mega 2018. I think a lot of people forget that. I think I brought that up in an F1 Word podcast at some point. He's had a really, really good year, and I think that's sort of flown under the radar. And I think that Ricciardo might struggle to beat him in his first season, and that's really because Hülkenberg has all of the knowledge of being within that team. I don't think it's going to be a massive gap, don't get me wrong. I think these are two of the quickest guys on the grid. I mean, I think I said it as maybe my best driver lineup on the 2019 calendar. Grid, not calendar. I think I said it as probably one of the best on the grid, but I think it will take Ricciardo time, undoubtedly, to settle into a brand new team. It's not going to be surely that easy to jump into a car and have success straight away. I feel like there will be a learning process, and I feel like Hülkenberg will have that advantage, especially for the first 5 races. Then it might be a little bit more equal, but I feel like Hülkenberg's just ultra consistent. Of course, he doesn't have that. Maybe he doesn't have that flat out. It's not even like flat out speed. Maybe he just doesn't have that cutting edge decision making at times to enable him to get those random podiums like Sergio Perez. I don't know what it is, because they were in the same team. Perez was picking up the podiums whilst Hülkenberg wasn't. There's obviously some sort of difference there between the two sort of personalities as a driver, as why Perez was getting the podiums, but I guess Hülkenberg was getting the points over a season. It's an interesting one to think about, but I think it's going to be incredibly close between Hülkenberg and Ricciardo, but I think that Hülkenberg might just edge him just through knowledge within the team and just being with that team for a multiple amount of years. He knows the processes, he knows what to do. I feel like he'll have the advantage over the first 5 races, 5-6 races. It will then sort of be a bit more equal, but then I think over the season because of those first few races where he's ahead. Hulkenberg probably will outscore Daniel Ricciardo. Now to my top 6. I'm going to start with... Well, yeah, I'm just going to go with P6 right now. I don't think I'll need to explain any other ones above to make this one make sense. But Pierre Gasly, I'm going to go with P6 in the championship. If I'm saying Red Bull is going to be the worst of the top 3 cars, I think that he's probably most inexperienced of the top 3 drivers in the top 3 teams. So I feel like he'll probably struggle. He'll be ordered to get out of the way of... Verstappen on certain occasions, like we saw with Bottas. I wouldn't be surprised at all. I think Pierre Gasly undoubtedly has speed, but the consistency, it wasn't really there in 2018. So I think that's the thing that he needs to focus on. I hope this isn't another case of Red Bull promoting a young guy too quick. We saw what happened with Danny Kvyat, unfortunately. We saw what happened there. So I feel like there's a possibility that could happen again. I really hope it doesn't happen, but you feel like maybe it might have been a little bit too soon. I don't know. Could be completely wrong. You can let me know if I'm wrong in the comment section down below. I feel like Gasly might have needed an extra year or 2 or so to be ready to be racing for Red Bull, but at the same time they needed a driver and they really had nobody else to call on. So they even had to call back 2 drivers that previously got sacked from the Red Bull program to come back. So yeah. So I'm going to go with him in P6. I'm going to go Bottas in P5. We already mentioned, I feel like he's probably not going to have an amazing season. I think he probably is going to struggle somewhat in 2019. I don't know how we can really improve the struggles that he had over the past 12 months, sadly. It really was a bad year for Bottas. He needs to clear his mind going into 2019. Not that I can speak. I mean, I don't know what was going on, to be perfectly honest, but we saw from the outside that something was not quite right with Bottas. It just didn't all fit together, did it? It just didn't work in 2018, and on so many occasions just the bad result came out instead of the good result, even when it was like 50-50. So I think Bottas probably will struggle once again. As we've said already, I think Hamilton probably will be, or undoubtedly will be, the #1 driver in the team for 90% of the season, meaning Bottas will be ordered to get out of the way, as we've seen already in 2018. So I'm going to go with Bottas in P5. Now, the interesting bit, top 4. Who's going to miss out on that top 3 place? Well, I'm going to go with Charles Leclerc, not because I doubt his speed, but I feel like a little bit like what I was saying with Gasly, he might need a little bit of time to adapt to being in a top team. It's going to be a bit of a drop into the deep end. Like with Gasly, I have no doubts about their talent. I feel like maybe they're the next world champion that hasn't won one already. Who knows? But they will need some time to acclimatise themselves within the team. Yes, Leclerc has been a part of the Ferrari family for a long time, but it's different racing in a Sauber to a Ferrari. I'm not going to lie, I'm slightly astonished the amount of people think that Leclerc's going to wipe the floor with Vettel in 2019. Vettel himself admitted 2018 was probably one of his worst seasons ever, and that's coming from a 4-time world champion. He realised he made so many mistakes in that year. So I think that once we get the proper Vettel back, the one that is more consistent and flat out quick every weekend, we'll get one that's battling for a championship right until the final bit. But Leclerc, I think he's going to have that 5 or 6 race acclimatisation period into the team. I have no doubt he's going to win races. I have no doubt that he's going to beat Vettel on a number of occasions. It's Formula 1, and Leclerc is a super talent. So I don't feel that there's any pressure on him to get like 5 victories this season, because it's probably going to happen, to be perfectly honest. But I think it's probably going to be some maybe... I'm not going to say rookie errors, but I'll say little errors that he hasn't really had the time in Formula 1 to experience every scenario that could be thrown at him. So maybe some things are going to throw him off. But once again, I'm not denying his talent one bit. I absolutely love the guy. I really hope that he has big success. I want him to win the championship. I mean, I'm not just saying that. I want him to win the championship. I want him or Verstappen to win the championship, just to make it a little bit different. But I feel like maybe he just might struggle in the first couple of races, struggle with new scenarios, and maybe over a season he won't be quite as consistent as Vettel. So I'm going to go with Leclerc in P4. Next up, Verstappen. I'm going to put him in P3. I think that he showed, especially in that last third, maybe even last half of 2018, that this guy is ready to win a championship. If the car's underneath him, he's ready to win a championship. I was amazed at how much Verstappen matured throughout the 2018 season, and this could swing any way. To be perfectly honest, I think these top 4 drivers could be interchangeable about where their car is, because I think any 4 of these top 4 drivers could win the championship. But I'm going to go with Verstappen in P3 just because I don't think the car's going to be quite there for him. I think he's ready to win a championship. He's good enough to win a championship at this point. He proved that in a number of occasions in wheel-to-wheel battles in 2018. He's matured so much over the past 12 months, and I mean, I'm not going to lie, I did, in a way, wasn't a massive fan in 2016, 2017. Some of the things he said, I was like, I don't know, that's maybe not the right attitude. But 2018, he developed so much. Incredibly talented guy. He proved it out on track. The maturity on and off track has gone way, way up. That makes me think he's ready to win a championship if the car's ready for him. I don't think the car is going to quite be ready for him. That's the reason why I'm not going to predict him as champion. But of course, leave your thoughts and opinions down below. If that Honda power unit's good, I honestly think Verstappen's got a pretty strong chance of winning the championship. But I'm going to say it's not quite good enough, and that's the reason he misses out. So, the interesting bit, who have I put as champion of 2019? Well, maybe predictably, I've gone with Hamilton winning the championship and Vettel in P2. As I said earlier, I think it's going to be quite close between Ferrari, Mercedes and Red Bull. I feel like the thing is, Mercedes just always seem to be blooming consistent. That's what's so annoying about them. That German consistency throughout a whole season is helping them just make sure they bang in the results throughout the year and get the points required to win the championship. And Hamilton is just so annoyingly consistent. I'm not a fan of Lewis Hamilton. Like, I hate saying I'm not a fan because it makes me think people think I hate him. I don't support Lewis Hamilton. I don't support Sebastian Vettel. I'm going to support Danny Kvyat because he's back on the grid. But yeah, I don't support either of these two guys. So it's just coming from who I think is more talented. And right now, after seeing 2018 and how much Hamilton just was on it all the time, the fact he won that German Grand Prix from right at the back of the grid, and where other people bottled it, he went ahead and won it in a car that wasn't quick enough on normal pace to win, was incredible. I think Hamilton proved throughout 2018. I feel like it's going to get a lot of hate comments, but I think that Hamilton is the best driver on the grid in going into 2019 season. He's sort of like Verstappen's incredibly talented, but Hamilton's got the experience over 10, 11 years in Formula 1 now, and that's probably what sets him above someone like Verstappen. And Vettel, I think just the inconsistencies we saw throughout 2018, I don't know whether he's going to be able to completely eradicate them. That's what worries me going into 2019. Has he mounted so much pressure on himself now to win this 2019 championship? Is he going to fail even harder in certain scenarios? I don't know, but yeah, once again, I don't hold any resent towards any driver on this grid. I think 2019 is probably one of the most talented driver lineup grids we've ever had. To be honest, I don't think there's any driver on the 2019 grid, maybe one. I won't say it because I don't want to get into that argument, but I think there's probably all but 1 or 2 drivers on this 2019 grid that deserve to be there. And I think that says a lot, because over the past couple of years, even if you look back to maybe the 2008 to 2012, 13 era of Formula 1, you could say 7 or 8 drivers probably didn't deserve to be in Formula 1 from their past experiences. But if it's down to 1 or 2 maybe that don't really deserve to be there, or maybe they deserve to be there but they just aren't maybe ready, I think that's great. I think that's great that Formula 1 has got to a stage where it's really finding the top talent, and more people are getting there. I mean, yes, money is still a thing, we've seen that with Stroll, but at the end of the day, the majority of the top talent is now getting to Formula 1, which I think is great. And we saw that top 3 in the F2 Championship last year are all getting promoted up to race seats, and decent enough race seats to maybe battle for points. I mean, I know I put them in the bottom 3 of this list earlier on, but we'll skip about that point. They're probably always going to score points. I think that 2019, every driver is going to score points. Maybe that's a bold prediction that I didn't put in my predictions video a couple of months back. So that's it. I've spoken for a very long time. It's nearly a 25-minute video, but hopefully you did enjoy this one. I'll read through them quickly once again, just so that you get the gist and you know it all just in an order. So, Constructors, I'm going to go Ferrari champions, just through consistency over a whole season. Mercedes behind, just because I think Bottas might struggle to get the points needed to overtake the consistent Ferraris. And then Red Bull, Renault, for Stroll, Sauber, Haas, Toro Rosso, Williams and McLaren last in the Constructors. I mean, if that happens, that's a big shock if McLaren are last, but I'm just going to go with it now that I've already said it. And we'll look at the drivers' top 10. I'm going to go Hamilton, champion, Vettel, Verstappen as your top 3, Leclerc just missing out, but as I said, I think those top 4 could rotate depending on how the whole season goes. I think Bottas P5, Gasly P6, then Hülkenberg, Ricciardo, Perez and Raikkonen rounding out the top 10. So that is pretty much it. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I apologise, this video went on for a bit longer than I thought it was going to, but nonetheless I've enjoyed making it. It's always nice to see sort of a bold prediction come out of nowhere, and I hope that this doesn't all come true, because this all will be a little bit too, I don't know, too standard. I kind of want to see something crazy happen in 2019. If Renault come out there and be really amazing or something, that'd be fantastic. It probably isn't going to happen, but you know, if Renault are battling for a championship, I'm more than happy. So thanks for watching. Please remember to leave your comments down below about your top 10 in drivers and constructors. And yeah, a link to my university documentary donation page is also in the description as always. Please remember to drop a like on the video if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you guys around soon. It's been Alex, I'm out here. Goodbye.